Best holds friends together like glue. You trust me and I trust you. We both do our best to tell the truth when it's not the easy thing to do. Honesty can build or burn bridges. All it takes is one small sentence. You don't speak unless the truth is in it.
That was such a cool circus! Hey kids! And welcome to another adventure on our High Wire adventure. Today at Super Kids Church. I'm so excited to have you with us. We have been at a 3-ring circus this entire month, just having fun, right? And learning about trusting one another, right? This is going to be the last part of our 3-ring circus adventure, which is a chapter of our epic adventure of God's love. And this whole 3-ring circus, we have been studying what it means to trust, right? And trust is putting your confidence in someone you can depend on. And we can trust the people who care for us, right? We can trust friends, right? But the fact of the matter is all of those people are people, which means that they're not perfect, and sometimes they may sin and do wrong. But the cool thing is we can always have confidence and depend on God, who is always dependable, who is always trustworthy, and never makes us question that. And in fact, the Bible tells us to trust him with everything with our memory verse, which comes from Proverbs 3:5-6. And it reads, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight." Right? When we trust God and we see God move and we trust in his plan. Last week we talked about how we need to trust in his plan and not take it into our own hands, but trust in God's guidance and that he will make the path perfect. He will give us the plan that is best for us, right? And last week we talked about how somebody didn't do that, right? Didn't follow our memory verse. That they understood what God was saying, but they didn't wait for his timing. They did it themselves, and they paid a price for that. But the cool thing is, even though they did it wrong, God still had a plan. And he still blessed them and said, "God, let me guide you," and gave a wonderful, wonderful dream to Jacob. All right, but here's what we're going to do today. We are going to be doing another Pause, Miss Live moment today as we finish out our 3-ring circus of life here and continue talking about trust and what that means. So for today's Pause, Miss Live moment, you're going to have to go find a rock. All right, and you're going to need markers and some paint. All right, now the paint is going to be for after Kids Church, but the markers are going to be for today. Now, I don't know about you, but in this 3-ring circus of a life, do you ever worry about anything? Miss Liv is a worrier. I worry all the time about things. You can ask Mr. Mac. I'm always like, is the baby okay? Because I have a little one, right? I'm always like, oh, are we going to make it on time? Oh, did I bring enough food? Oh, do we have enough? I am a worrier. I have lots of worries, but the cool thing about God is I can place my worries on him, and he provides for us. So today we're going to make what's called a worry rock. So you're going to go get a rock, and you're going to get some markers, and I want you to write some of your worries on this rock. What are the things that worry you the most? And I want you to write it on this rock with your marker. And then I want you to hold on to your worries just for a little bit until we finish our story today. So that way we can do something new with it at the end, all right? So you're going to get your rocks ready for our story today. Now, if you don't have time to do this right now or you don't have a rock available at the moment, that's okay. Just continue watching and then do it this week so you can remind yourself about our Bible story today, okay? So you ready to pause, Miss Liv? And go find a rock so that you can write some worries down? All right, we're going to pause, Miss Liv in 3, 2, 1. Pause, Miss Liv. All right, how do you feel putting those worries down? I mean, some of you might feel a little extra worried because you just thought about everything that you worry about. Some of you might feel a little relieved putting them down and seeing what your worries are. But that's okay, because in either reaction you have, don't worry. We're going to see what it has to do with our Bible story today, all right? So Miss Liv's going to get her Bible, you get yours, and I'll see you on the other side. Now, as you go get your Bibles, all right, we are going to jump in and do our backstory today. Now, we're going to be going to Genesis 31 today, all right? So as you open up to Genesis 31, Miss Liv's going to go over our backstory to find out where we're at so we understand what God is speaking to us today, all right? So we have been studying the Bible from the very beginning, and we know out of nothing, God created this incredible, beautiful world that we live in and everything in it. But then we also know that God created Adam and Eve, right? Two humans, so in the image of God, so that we could have they could have a relationship with God. But unfortunately, they chose to disobey God, and sin entered the world that day, as did heartache and so many other things. But see, God still had a plan. And God chose a special man named Abraham and gave him a promise that seemed impossible to have a baby at 100 years old. But God blessed them, and God gave them a baby boy named Isaac. And then Isaac grew up, and Isaac had a family. And his family traveled in many different places, and because he had to keep digging wells and moving, but God still blessed that family, and they finally reached the land that God wanted them to be in. And in that land, God blessed them with twin sons named Jacob and Esau. But you see, Jacob and Esau were always at odds, and Jacob tricked his big brother Esau into trading away his rights, and then he tricked his dad into blessing him instead of Esau, and Esau was very angry about this, and Jacob had to run away. But the cool thing is, out of fear for his life, he ran away, and he stayed away for 20 years, but God still told Jacob that he promised him that he would still bless Jacob, even though he had done wrong, because God loved him, right? And God loved us enough to still have a plan, right? So at this point in our story, we're talking about Jacob, and he is away from home in Haran, and he has been living there for 20 years when our story begins today, all right? So Ms. Liv's going to get her Bible, and we're going to start our story today. So during this time where Jacob had been living with his uncle Laban, Jacob now had a big family of his own, all right? And one day God spoke to him. Let's go look at what God spoke to him in Genesis 31:3. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives. I will be with you." Wow. So at this point, Jacob might have been excited, right? He had been away from his family for so long. He hadn't seen his mom in 20 years. He hadn't seen his brother, his dad. He hadn't seen anyone in his family other than his uncle and his uncle's family for 20 years. So he may have been excited to go home. But then, at the same time, he might be a little worried. Remember, the reason he left home was because Esau was angry with him, and angry enough with him to kill him, right? So maybe he wondered if Esau was still mad. Jacob probably had lots of mixed feelings here, right? Like wonder or fear, like he was worried, or like he was excited. But you see, regardless of all of these emotions, he heard God say that God will be with him, so he trusted God and decided to return to his family. So when Jacob got close to his home, though, he sent a message to Esau. And in his message, Jacob told Esau that he had been staying at his uncle's Laban, and he had lots of animals now. So he told Esau, "I hope I can please you." Now, why would he say, "I can hope I can please you"? Was he still worried that Esau was angry? Well, the messengers left with Jacob's message, and they returned bringing some shocking news to Jacob. Esau was coming. That was good. But he was bringing 400 men. Now, that doesn't sound good. I mean, I would be a little worried at that point, right? I'm sure he was a little worried at that point, because that doesn't sound like Esau's coming and is excited to see him. That sounds like Esau's coming to kill him with an army. So Jacob must have been really worried now that he had heard about these 400 men. So he decided to split his family into two and split his herds into two groups. And he figured if Esau went and attacked one group, at least half of them could get away. And he was trying to make preparations. But then as his worry became more and more and more, he realized something. He realized that he hadn't talked to God yet. God had said that God would be with him. So he decided to talk to God and pray because God had said that he would be with him. And he had learned at an early age, remember when he left home 20 years ago, that he needed to trust in God's plan, not his plan. So he went and he turned to God. Let's look at Genesis 32, 9 through 11 to see what he said. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, 'Go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children." Wow. Jacob remembered that God said he was with him so he could turn to God at any moment, and he needed God's guidance. Remember the dream of the angels coming up and down? And that was God saying, "I will guide you. You just gotta need to let me," right? Here he was, and he decided to let God direct him. Jacob remembered God's promise to him. So he decided to show that he came in peace to Esau. So he decided to give him a gift, a little gift. Okay, maybe a big gift. Let's go read about this gift in 13, 14, and 15. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows, and 10 bulls, and 10 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. Now that's a lot of things, okay? Jacob told his servants to tell Esau that the animals were a gift from his brother and that Jacob was coming behind them. He was like, okay, I need to give a peace offering here. We need a peace offering. I am worried that Esau's still angry, so let me try to do this and give a peace offering, right? Jacob hoped that Esau would be so happy with the gifts he would stop being angry with Jacob. Jacob sent his whole family ahead across the river, figuring that Esau wouldn't hurt the women and children, right? And Jacob spent the night alone wrestling with God, but that's another story for another time, all right? And in the morning, Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with 400 men. This time, Jacob didn't hide behind his family. He didn't hide behind his gifts. He went on ahead. You see, he wrestled with God, and he saw that God was with him. And this time, he was like, I'm going to do this with God's plan, not mine. He had learned. So he decided, and he walked up. As Jacob got close to Esau, Esau did something crazy. You see, Jacob bowed down to the ground 7 times, and Esau ran up and hugged Jacob. Both brothers cried with joy, and Jacob introduced Esau to his family. They had reunited. Let's see what happens in 33, 8 through 10. Esau asked, "What's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I met? To find favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." "No, please," said Jacob. "I have found favor in your eyes. Accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept and present that was brought to you. For God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. You see, Esau was coming with 400 men to welcome Jacob. Jacob looked worried about what Esau might do to him, but at the same time, God was with him, and Jacob knew that God was going to be with him. And it turned out that Jacob didn't have to worry. He didn't have to send all those things, and he didn't have to worry about what was going on because Esau was overjoyed to see his brother after 20 years. What had happened in the past was behind him now. It's easy for us to worry about things that honestly may never happen. A lot of times we sit there and worry for things that will never come because God doesn't let them come. We worry about things that might go wrong. We worry about things that might happen. We worry about things that did happen. But we don't have to let our worries overwhelm us. we can still trust God and believe that God is in control. When we're worried, we can choose to do what Jacob chose to do and pray and trust in God's plan. In fact, our point of the day is, you can trust God even when you're worried. You see, Jacob was worried how Esau was going to welcome him, and Esau was just so ecstatic just to see him again. He could not wait to welcome his brother. In fact, he brought 400 people to come welcome him. And Jacob was so worried about what was going to happen, but he chose to use the direction of God. Remember last week's story, he didn't choose God's direction. He didn't choose to wait on God and trust in God's plan. He tried to do God's plan himself, but he had learned his lesson, and this time he chose to turn to God. When we are worried, whether it's something small, we're worried about a test, or maybe we're worried about something big because we have to move, or something's about to happen in our family, or maybe something does happen in our family and we're worried about maybe a loved one. The cool thing is we can do what Jacob did. We can turn to God. We can trust God even when we're worried because he is always dependable. He will always help us. He is fantastic that way. He is trustworthy. And we can do what Jacob did and pray. We can turn to God. We can see what God has and ask him for his guidance and follow his plan to see God do some amazing things in our lives. When we are worried, we don't have to be overwhelmed with it. All we have to do is turn to God and give it to him and trust in his plan and trust that he will take care of us. Which brings us to what you can do this week. Well, this week, you can go and grab your worry rock. I want you to go grab your worry rock. And if you didn't get a chance to do it yet, you still need to go get a rock and write what you're worried about on it. And what I want you to do is now, you wrote on it with a marker, but now I want you to go get some paints. I want you to paint your rock. I want you to paint a beautiful picture that reminds you of God on that rock. And how you're going to paint over those words and keep painting over them until they vanish, until you can't see the words underneath anymore. You're going to paint over with God's love. You're going to paint over with something that reminds you of God's love and God's trustworthiness, whether it's something from our story or something that's happened in your life. But paint over it with something that reminds you of God. To understand that all of our worries, we don't have to deal with on our own. We can let God deal with them. We can give our worries to the Lord and he will give us back a stone of beauty. We can give our stone of worry to the Lord and he will give us back a life of adventure. A life that glorifies him. A life that is better than we could even imagine. The other thing you can do is you can do an animal cracker parade! Alright, this is a snack time one. You can go get some animal crackers and maybe find all the different types of animal crackers and remember a circus theme and make a little parade of them all and then enjoy some animal crackers today. Maybe you make your own animal parade and you act out different animals as you walk around the house and everyone gets a different animal. But make a parade of a circus to remind you how you can trust in the Lord and have some fun with it today. You can also do some more carnival things. Get out your 3 rings again, your three hula hoops. Play that game again or create a new 3 hula hoop game to do for our 3-wing surface as you remember to trust in the Lord and remember the acrobats who have to rely on one another. And even on the high wire, we can always trust God. All right, but have some fun with your family this week. You can also go to lifechaponlive.com/kids where you can download our parent cue for some fun stuff to do with your family. You can download the kids' devotionals. They'll have the link to the parent cue website for more crafty things to do, as well as the link to the 252 video for our Bible story in a new fun way, and a link to our YouTube playlist for some worship. You don't want to miss it out. Go check out lifechaponlive.com/kids for more resources and fun things to do with our 3-ring surface theme as we continue to trust God. Now the cool thing is we have been studying trust all month and doing our chapter of our epic story of love on the circus. But our next chapter in our epic story of love is something brand new, and I can't wait to show you. So come join us next week for our brand new adventure. All right, our circus chapter is done, and it is time for a new adventure and a new chapter in our epic adventure together of God's love. All right, so come back next week to find out what our new theme is. All right, so Melissa's going to pray, and she can't wait to see you next week. Are you guys ready? Here we go. Dear Jesus, I thank you for today. I thank you for this great group of kids that's watching this, Lord. I pray a special blessing over each and every kid and family watching this, Lord, that you would give them an extra dose of trust, that they would know that you were dependable and you were trustworthy, and they will choose to trust you, even with their emotions, even if that's worry, even if that's fear, Lord, that they will turn to you because you are strong enough to take care of all of our worries and all of our fears and everything going on, Lord. I thank you that you are dependable, Lord, and help us to trust in you in mighty ways this week and this entire year, Lord. Once again, I pray a special blessing over every kid watching this, Lord. Keep them safe this week and bring them back safely next week so we can continue to study you and to learn more about your love for us, Lord. I thank you, Jesus. Amen. It's been a blast having you with us. I can't wait till next week. See you then.